What's up, guys? Give y'all a minute or so to catch up here. And in case you're ever wondering, I don't just sit around sweating like this for no reason. Just finished doing a boot camp class with my noon corporate fitness peeps. So that's usually the case. Most days I'm teaching a class up until 1 o'clock, and then I think it's just a good time for me to roll into these Facebook Lives. So, excuse me. Well, if you're asking why it's not like I'm gonna barf, it's because we just did a great workout. I'm gonna give you the rundown real quick because this is an awesome workout you can do on your own. You take a simple deck of cards. For each suit, you choose an exercise. Today, we did kettlebell swings for hearts, diamonds were push-ups, sit-ups for spades, and clubs were walking lunges. But you can pick any 4 exercises. I try to mix in something that hits lower body, something that hits core, something that hits upper body, and something that does cardio, like jumping jacks, jump rope, kettlebell swings, if you have a dumbbell or kettlebell, that sort of thing. Anyway, you flip a card over, and the face value, that's how many reps you do. If it's a 2 of hearts, then in this case, it was 2 kettlebell swings. That is true all the way up to the face cards. Those are 10. Aces are 15, jokers are 20 burpees each. So it ends up to be like 100 reps of everything, plus 40 burpees, and we did all that in like 20 minutes. So a lot of work in a short period of time. Anyway, guys, I really appreciate you being here this week. This conversation about nutrition, it's been really fun to have a theme and a topic for the week, and I appreciate the comments and the feedback and the questions I've been getting in direct messages. So, touched on earlier in the week, the framework, the principles I use when I came up with my nutrition approach, and it's been very effective for the last 15 years, relatively unchanged. And talked a little bit about the hunger satisfied scale and how important that is. If you learn nothing else from me, if you implement nothing else from me when it comes to nutrition, it should be the hunger satisfied scale, that 1 to 10 scale that we talked about. And if you don't recall any of that or you missed it, you can go back on this page and my Facebook page here, and you're going to find those, or you can go onto my YouTube channel, and I have them posted on there as well, and they're under a playlist, so they're already archived and organized, all just for you. So today's conversation about nutrition, I mentioned about being a myth buster. So I want to talk about a few things here, and for the sake of time, I'm only going to hit on a couple of myths. There's so many that I could touch on. I want to hit on some of the bigger ones. Then if you have others you'd like me to touch on, I'm more than happy to do that and live down the road at some point, okay? So, in fact, I could do it next week. All right, so before we get into that, I wanted to tell you a little backstory. The father of modern medicine, who was like in the 300-400 BC era, Hippocrates, he was quoted as saying, "Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food," or "Let medicine be food," and you know the drill. You know the quote, but the point being, what you put into your body, the food that you ingest, is like medicine in that it has a direct impact. It affects your bloodstream and it affects every cell in your body. And so when you put food into your body that is not medicinal, it's more toxic, then you're going to have the ill effects. It's pretty common sense. But also on the other side of that, you know, when we have things going on in our body, like we're dealing with some weight issues, or we're even obese, when we're dealing with blood sugar issues, blood pressure, you know, a whole host of things that are truly lifestyle related, the tendency is we go to a pill. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with pharmaceuticals. They do a great job when they're really necessary, but if you're not in a real dangerous situation where you need those things, simply changing your nutrition, your diet, and looking at your food as medicine, that whatever's on your plate, whatever you're getting ready to put in your mouth is going to have an impact, and that can have an outcome that sucks or can have an outcome that doesn't suck, and you get to choose each and every time, right? Otherwise, there's the saying that we dig our grave one fork at a time, one forkful at a time. So I just want you to kind of keep that in mind, that when you look at your nutrition, we expanded our nutrition definition to include the people around us, our environment, music you listen to, television shows you watch. That all is nutrition because it comes into your energetic field and that has an impact on you. So now I want you to also think about looking at your food as medicine, and when you need medicine, look at your food. All right, the first big myth I want to talk about today came up in a conversation I was having yesterday with my group coaching program, and it was this idea that we can out-train a bad diet, and that saying's been around for a little while now, but what that means is essentially and you maybe do this. I've had so many people tell me this, and I've done it in the past as well. That's where you say, you know what, I'm gonna have this extra slice of pizza. I'm gonna have this donut. I'm gonna have this bowl of ice cream. And then tomorrow I'm gonna go run it off. I'm gonna go do an extra workout now. And the idea is this idea of do a little too much here and we'll offset it later. It's like, it's not like a checks and balance system. It doesn't work that way. What you do in that moment when you have that bowl of ice cream, it's okay. If that's the thing, do it, right? But don't think that tomorrow you can go run it off, because the damage is done right then and there and for the following few hours. And you can't just wake up tomorrow, because there's this whole hormonal effect. I could really go down that rabbit hole, but it's just important to know the general principle that you cannot out-train those kind of choices. The point is that you make the choices appropriately, you plan and you strategize for it, and I'm happy to teach you all about that. But then you can have those things and it has minimal impact, and the next day you do it guilt-free, right? You don't then have the ice cream, so good, and I enjoyed it, and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna go run tomorrow, and then you feel bad about it, and you gotta go do your penance for your sins that you committed, and it just doesn't work that way, right? So I want you to keep that in mind. The other thing I wanted to touch on today, another big myth, is about protein. This is a topic that I could go on for like an hour solid, but the first myth about protein is the amount of protein that you need. You know, back in the 90s when I was really coming up as a trainer and in college, it was all about carbohydrates, but in the bodybuilding world, it was very much about protein, and it still is for the most part. And this idea is that you have to eat copious amounts of protein if you want to build muscle. Well, the fact is that you can only process so much protein that you consume, break it into amino acids, and then utilize it at the cell level to rebuild tissues. And anything beyond that, your body has to work a little harder to excrete that out. Over time, it can be kind of harmful for some people. It's not dangerous for most people. And the old adage when I was coming up, again, in the bodybuilding world and the strength world, was about 1 gram of protein for every pound of body weight. So if I weighed 200 pounds, I was supposed to eat 200 grams of protein in a day. That's wasting a lot of protein, it's wasting a lot of calories, wasting a lot of food that you just don't need. And again, I won't go into all the details, and you know, there's a whole chemistry lesson about how this process works. But the point of it is that you really, at the most, I like for my students to consume about 1 gram of protein per lean pound of muscle or body weight. So if I weigh 200 pounds, and if my body fat percentage is such that 150 pounds is lean body tissue, muscle, bones, and so on, and the other 50 pounds is fat, then I'm gonna eat about 150 grams of protein at the most. And that's kind of pushing, and that's really for people who are training a lot. If you're not training a lot, you need even less. Also, the idea is that you have to have protein with every single meal. I don't think that's necessary. I think that's kind of a myth as well. Certainly we need a balance in our macros. We need to make sure that we're not just eating all carbs all the time and then later eating all fat and all that. We want to have a good balance, and that's going to give you the best effect on your metabolism. It's going to give you the best impact on your blood sugar, seeing all these big spikes and things happen in your blood sugar. And it's going to help your body to kind of utilize that energy as it's broken down. But the idea is that you don't have to eat a crap ton of protein. I think you can get most of that protein in your meals, and only supplement protein with shakes and smoothies on occasion, not necessarily as a staple. Sure, it's a great in-between meal snack. It's a great thing to have after a workout, but not entirely necessary. On that note, you don't have to eat protein right after you work out. There's this idea that there's a window of time that we talk about, this glycogen window and this protein window, that in that first 15 minutes to 60 minutes after a workout, you have to consume your carbs and protein. Otherwise, you pretty much wasted your time in the workout. That's absolutely ludicrous and not true. Unless you're a high-level elite athlete, then maybe that's true. But for the most of us, that's not the case, all right? I do think it's important that after you work out, that when you're ready, you have something to eat. You know, I worked out, did a hard workout, and I don't care if I go eat for another hour. It's really about when I'm hungry, using that hunger satisfied scale. All right, so again, that's some of the myths I want to kind of debunk about protein today and the idea of out-training your diet. It just doesn't work that way. I'm happy to clarify on those things for you as well. And the last thing I would leave you with is that when you're using the hunger satisfied scale and you're having a meal or a snack, yes, I think it's okay if you kind of balance your macros and have some protein in there. But if you don't freak out about it. I don't think that there should ever be a time that you're freaking out about your food, your macros, your calories, and all of that, because that's just fear-based stuff, and that's going to get you nowhere. And it's a really horrible cycle that we get caught up into. So we take a step back and we just relax and we listen to our body. We tune into our own wisdom. The hunger satisfied scale is the first step to tuning into that wisdom. Then you start to understand, when does your body really need protein? How much does it need? It will tell you how much you need, but it takes time and it takes an effort, some discipline. The other thing I want to talk about real quick about protein is that there's this idea that it has to be whey protein, dairy-based protein, animal-based protein in order for you to get this high bioavailability, like with egg whites and so on. And yeah, that stuff gets to your cells and all that and blah, blah, blah. There's science in this. But the fact is that is a myth, because there is enough evidence now that proves plant-based protein is going to get you the same benefits and sometimes better bioavailability and better on your health and your energetic field to have plant-based proteins instead of animal-based proteins. There's a whole thing we could talk about in terms of the environmental impact and the cost per gram and all of that. But suffice it to say that you can have plant-based protein. I did vegan for a solid year, felt great, built muscle, and there's actually some, I forget the name of it, there's a documentary out right now on Netflix, and it's about all these high-level athletes, Olympic weightlifters, Olympic-level cyclists, power lifters, and so forth, that are 100% vegan, plant-based athletes. And so there's enough evidence in personal experience for me, in scientific research, and looking at other high-level athletes out there. I'm not a high-level athlete, but you know what I mean, that makes it very clear that plant-based protein can be sufficient. So I think I'll wrap it up with that, guys. I don't want to make these anything over about 10 minutes. So I really appreciate you being here, and please come back tomorrow if you can around 1 o'clock, and I'm going to give a little announcement that relates to this whole topic of nutrition and a little something you might want to get in on by next Monday. And I might even give you a little sneak peek or release it early to those of you who are involved in these lives or on my email list. So pretty cool, guys. Again, I appreciate your interactions, your questions, and your comments. And if there's anything else you want me to talk about, anytime, just let me know, all right? So, can't out-train your nutrition. Food is your medicine. Medicine is your food. Myths about protein. You don't need as much as you think. It doesn't have to be animal-based, and you don't have to have it with every single meal. So, till then, guys, take it to heart. Try it for yourself. Implement, practice, and test it for yourself. If it works for you, keep it. If it doesn't, get rid of it. All right, until then, see you next time. Get out there, get after it, and peace.